Think about the last time you gave someone feedback, and instead of hearing you, they shut down. They got quiet, or they pushed back hard, or they turned it around and made it about something you did. You weren't attacking them. You were trying to help. But something in their brain decided otherwise. That reaction has a name. It has a cause. And once you understand it, really understand it, you'll never look at conflict the same way again. Today we're going deep on defensiveness, not the surface level advice you've heard before, the actual psychology underneath it. Most people think defensiveness is about ego. Someone can't take criticism, so they fight back. That's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Defensiveness is a threat response. When someone feels criticized, rejected, or challenged, the brain processes that as danger, not metaphorical danger. The same neurological circuits that fire when you're physically threatened fire when your sense of self feels under attack. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, activates. Cortisol spikes, blood pressure rises, and the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thought and calm communication, goes partially offline. This is why logic doesn't work on a defensive person. You can't reason someone out of a reaction that isn't coming from reason in the first place. You're not dealing with their thoughts. You're dealing with their nervous system. Defensiveness doesn't come from nowhere. In almost every case, it traces back to one of three roots. The first is shame. When someone already feels inadequate about their work, their relationships, their choices, even mild feedback can feel like confirmation of their worst fear about themselves. They are not defending against your words. They are defending against the story those words seem to confine. The second root is identity threat. Some beliefs, behaviors, and roles become so central to how a person sees themselves that questioning them feels like an attack on who they are, not just what they did. Tell someone their parenting approach is wrong, and you're not just critiquing a decision. You're threatening their identity as a parent. The third root is past experience. People who grew up in environments where criticism was harsh, unpredictable, or followed by punishment develop a hair-trigger threat response. Their defensiveness isn't irrational, it's a learned survival strategy. The environment they're in now is safe, but their nervous system doesn't know that yet. Understanding which root is driving someone's defensiveness changes everything about how you respond to it. Defensiveness doesn't always look like anger. That's one of the most important things to understand. Sometimes it looks like deflection, changing the subject, or suddenly bringing up your flaws when you raise theirs. Sometimes it looks like over-explaining, a flood of justifications and context that buries the original point. Sometimes it looks like withdrawal, silence, one-word answers, or physically leaving the conversation. And sometimes it looks like compliance without change. The person says fine or you're right just to end the interaction, with no real intention of doing anything differently. Each of these is the brain's way of ending the threat. Different strategy, same goal. Make this feeling stop. When you can recognize which pattern you're seeing, you can respond to what's actually happening, not just what's being said. Here's something counterintuitive. Intelligence does not reduce defensiveness. In many cases, it increases it. Highly intelligent people are often better at constructing arguments, which means when they feel threatened, they are faster at building a case for why they are right and you're wrong. They can find the one weak point in your feedback and use it to dismiss the whole thing. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning, using your cognitive ability not to find the truth, but to defend a conclusion you've already reached. This is why the most intellectual person in the room is sometimes the hardest to get through to. It's not that they are stupid, it's that they are using their intelligence in the service of self-protection. So, what do you actually do when someone goes defensive on you? The instinct is usually to push harder, to repeat yourself more clearly, to provide more evidence. But pushing into defensiveness almost always makes it wise, because you're adding more pressure to a system that's already in threat mode. The first thing you do is nothing. You stop. You let the moment breathe. A brief silence does more to de-escalate a nervous system than any words you could choose. The second thing is to separate the person from the behavior. Not, you always do this. But when this happens, this is the effect. You're not putting someone on trial. You're describing an observation. Third, acknowledge their experience before making your point. Not because they are right, but because a brain that feels understood is a brain that can hear you. Validation is not agreement. It's the door that makes agreement possible. And fourth, know when to pause the conversation entirely. Some discussions need to happen after the nervous system has had time to reset. Pushing through when someone is flooded rarely produces resolution. It usually just produces more damage. Everything we've discussed applies to other people. But let's be honest for a moment. You get defensive too. We all do. The question isn't whether you're immune to defensiveness. The question is whether you can catch it before it controls you. The signal is physical before it's verbal. A tightening in your chest, heat in your face, a sudden urgency to speak before the other person finishes. That's your amygdala firing. And when you notice it, really notice it, you have a choice. You can follow the impulse, or you can pause and ask, what is this reaction trying to protect? The most self-aware people in any room aren't the ones who never feel defensive. They're the ones who feel it and choose not to be run by it. Defensiveness is not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's not immaturity, though it can look like all of those things. It is a protection mechanism. And like most protection mechanisms, it was useful once. In many cases, it was necessary. Understanding that doesn't mean you excuse it, in yourself or in others. It means you stop fighting the symptom and start addressing what's underneath. That's the shift. From reacting to what people say, to understanding why they say it. From trying to win arguments, to actually changing minds. If this kind of psychology breakdown is useful to you, subscribe. I break these patterns down every week, and there's a lot more to come.